Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Karen Kolenovich, and today I have the privilege of interviewing my colleague, Phyliss Francis, and she is the creator of Unstoppable Sisters Rising. And now she's on the other side of the microphone, or other side of the camera, we'll say, to share with you a little bit about what this movement is and how it can impact you. So welcome, Phyliss. It's so great to have you here with us today.
Thank you, Karen.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about what your intention is for this movement, Unstoppable Sisters Rising.
Yes, Karen, this has been something that has been kind of on my heart for many years, actually a couple of decades, of really wanting to bring women of color together to showcase our expertise, our talents, and to really create a network where people can come together and get support from other women that look like them, and to be able to support our community to rise up, and especially with entrepreneurs in business. And the reason why I decided now is the time, because now is the time. In 2018, we had 2.4 million businesses started by African Americans, 2.1 million started by Latinos, and that's a lot of businesses. We're close to 5 million businesses in 2018 because many women are not feeling represented in leadership in corporate America. There's only 3% of women of color in leadership in corporate America. And more women are leaving their jobs, their 9-to-5s, to be able to create their own businesses, to create a space where they can step up and be a leader, where they can make more money and break through those internal and external, like, financial wealth ceilings. And so this is why I've created this, is to come together and support one another so that we can build and grow our community, but also grow our businesses in support of one another.
That's so exciting. It's really time for women of color to be able to come together and support each other. And it sounds like that's exactly what your mission is. And you work with entrepreneurs, is that right?
Yes, I work with entrepreneurs, small business owners. And a lot of my clients will come to me, and also I'm a coach trainer. So a lot of them will want to learn the skill of coaching, but to also grow a business. Usually they're a solo entrepreneur, whether it's, coaching, consulting, design, stylists, like people that really want to grow a business beyond themselves, but also small businesses that really want to expand, that want to scale, that want to get to that next level and leverage their time.
That's so exciting. So let's hit the rewind button a little bit and look back at some of the personal experiences that have shaped you as a woman of color, that have really kind of set you on this path and this mission to be able to impact other women of color. What were some of those key experiences that really opened your eyes to this experience?
There's one really pivotal moment that happened when it was 7. And I remember my dad, I have 3 sisters, lined us up and said, okay, I want to tell you all something very serious. And he's like, you have 2 strikes against you. One is that you're Black, and the other is that you're a woman. And the intention of this, as he shared, was that we're going to have to work extra harder, show up strong. We're going to have to be the best at everything we do, just to even show up at an equal level playing field with those of our counterparts. And that was something that stayed with me. And so it was something that helped me to create kind of my type A personality, perfectionism. But it also it was this kind of working harder, this kind of thing where I find is kind of cultural, where a lot of women of color that I've been interviewing and that I've been experiencing or that I've worked with are always feeling like they have to really be on top of their game as far as their expertise, have a million credentials, have all these things to show just so that they can just be seen. And so because of that, I noticed that those are a lot of the factors that have driven me to succeed. I mean, look at my wall right here, is all these certifications and degrees, because a lot of that was driving me to just show up. When I'm finding that it's like we are good enough as we are, we have a lot that we can offer, and being able to support women of color, including helping myself through this process of getting that we have something to give, we have something to contribute, we're worthy. And so a big part of this movement is kind of bringing this community together to support women of color, because I'm finding that there's different issues that are showing up for us, like our historical legacy, because I'm not the only woman or woman of color that has had that experience of having to work harder, the Black tax, the pink tax. we're making 75% on the dollar, or whatever those statistics are nowadays. It's just showing that we're having to really push ourselves in a way that other people, let's say our Caucasian counterparts, are not, or colleagues.
Yeah, so I think it's really important that you are really speaking to a specific group of people, women of color, and there's a reason for that. And you mentioned that you have all the certifications, the degrees, and so on and so forth, and many of your clients as well. And yet they're running into certain barriers. What do you find in your experience with your clients are some of those barriers that hold them back from achieving a higher level of success that they deserve?
Yeah, I call these the burden busters. There's this commonality that I'm finding. Like one being, I talked a little bit about that kind of historical legacy. Just already we have the culture that kind of already it's like the racism, or even the gender, as far as the dollar per hour and just those averages. But even looking beyond that, there is a burden I find that a lot of us are holding that's historical. Give back to your community. There's a lot of pressure to give to our family. A lot of women of color that I've spoken to are the head of the household, not just financially, but emotionally, physically, as not just the head of their immediate family, but also their extended families. And so there's a lot that they're carrying as far as that and then be able to work on top of that. It's this wanting to give back to our community too, that a lot of people are feeling held back. A story that I have that's really good is like with being African-American myself, when my husband and I started to come into money and started to really be like great as far as in our game as our financials. And we hired a person who was helping us with cleaning our house. And I remember family members were like, you need to be giving that money to another family member who's in need. Like you need to be able to send checks to them monthly. And I remember us thinking, well, wait a minute, we finally got ourselves to a point where we can get support because we want to keep going at that next level. And yet it was tremendous pressure that was placed upon us to be able to support other family members that weren't working as hard as us, that weren't, that didn't have a job, that, it's just, and I'm finding when I'm talking to other women of color, this is a common theme. Like the ones that are really the high achievers, the ones that are successful, the ones that are paying for family members' schooling or housing them or paying for weddings, or the one that people go to. And so there's a boundary thing here. And it's just with women of color, we're holding a lot on top of trying to succeed. And so it's really about helping women bust through these, women of color busting through these different boundaries, and including working smarter, not harder. Like we have that historical kind of thing that you have to work hard to even just be seen. And then there's a little bit of the fear of success, the fear of failure. We all have heard about the fear of failure. But the one thing I'm hearing a lot with women of color, there is a little bit of fear of success, because if I really achieve high levels of success, there's going to be a lot expected of me. Not only of my family, but having to represent their culture in a way that there's a heaviness about that. And so it's about helping and supporting these women to move past this, to clear these boundaries, and to be able to provide that support when they're stable enough to, or when they're at a space where they can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what I'm hearing you say is there's some guilt that comes with the success. Like if they are successful and they have overflow, financially especially, then there's that obligation. It's almost like this unspoken obligation that you need to do this for these other people that are your people, whether it be family members or community, and there's that bigger obligation. And I think that's the ultimate goal for a lot of people of color, to be able to support.
Right.
But then there is that gap in between where it's like, if they don't have what they need for their own business to grow and so on, then it's almost like they're making that leap, or they're doing that before they actually are able to. And so what are some ways that people can start to create some healthier boundaries around their time, their energy, or their finances?
I mean, there are so many strategies around that. And And I feel like this is so key. Like this is a huge thing because, like I said, this is a common thing that I'm hearing. And there is ways to be able to strategize, have a business plan in place. I mean, so one of the things that I'm doing with my 15-degree shift to millions, it's like I've come up with 5 keys to creating money in your business without working harder. And so it's about creating a vision. That's one of the first keys, and not just a vision for your business plan, but clarifying your vision and then creating a plan to execute it. But in that plan, there's also the work to be doing with the mindset, because there's a whole other underlying current happening here, which is with the mindset. Because I can give you the steps and you can do it step by step. But if your mindset's not there and you're not ready to receive the money that you feel you're worthy of, it's like we'll hit this glass ceiling. It's more internal. But I also help support people to really create a roadmap to success by their business plan, their mindset plan, but also financial plan. So putting a real financial plan in place so that you know what you need to be doing, know how that you need to be spending your money, and not just like a daily budget for your household goods, but like a budget within the business so that when you get to a point, then you can start giving back to your community in the way that you feel ready, the way that you can, and you're not doing it too soon. You know what I'm saying? And so that's one of the things that I work with women of color to help them strategize so that they have a solid plan in place and then that they're ready to go to that next level, which is then positioning themselves for their business and then being able to speak about it powerfully. I mean, there's so many things to say about that, but ultimately it's about really putting a plan in place that's solid and supporting women of color to be able to create boundaries and to hold boundaries. Because I'm finding too, when I'm talking with women of color, there is a little issue with the family boundaries and with those burdens, but it also leaks into their businesses with clients. You know, I have had so many women of color that I'm talking to when they're dealing with their clients, it's like they're there all the time. They're giving more hours than they really have allotted to. And it's more about really wanting to create that service, to really prove that I'm doing a good job and I'm going to be there for you. And it's not really holding that boundary for themselves and others.
Okay, that's important. So it's almost like over giving, over delivering, and that can be depleting and, really exhausting. So that's an important boundary to be able to hold, definitely. When we look at the mindset and energy piece, I feel like that's kind of a piece that you touched on that there's a question mark because, even if people do have everything in place and they're following all the steps their coach gives them, and everything makes sense logically, you mentioned that there's this other piece. So can you tell us a little bit more about how important the mindset and the energy is in actually creating a result?
Yeah. Oh, the mindset's really huge. And like a big part of my tagline is master your mind, maximize your success. And the mindset is huge because the mindset really impacts the energy that we give off. And I call it an energetic aroma. And so, I mean, the visual analogy that I give is when I think of those old cartoons when the person's making pie and they put it in the windowsill and there's this aroma that's wafting out of the window and it's drawing all the animals in the area. But that's how we are as humans. We give off an energy, an aroma of how we show off before sometimes we even speak, before we even get in the room. People can feel it. And so if there's that insecurity, if there's that unworthiness piece, it's like they're on top of it. And so I find with the mindset, when it's really working with the internal concepts, okay, so the worthiness issues come into piece, and that'll show up by how we charge. I can't tell you how many women of color I've spoken to that have an amazing business, that have a wall of degrees or credentials or certifications. And then when I'm hearing the rate, I'm like, that is all you're charging? Because there's this concept or this belief that, oh, people won't pay. Or even within the women of color community, people, we're supposed to give back, so I'm giving my services. Or they do have a rate, and then they're giving more hours than they're supposed to. And so it's really about valuing what we have and being able to work on our mindset to see, okay, where is our glass ceiling? And being able to break through it. And so I really support people with looking at that, looking at their worthiness, breaking through where that is, and how do they show up as a leader? Where is their leadership? Because the leadership shows up mentally, physically, like how we are, our surroundings. I love this saying that your network is a reflection of your net worth. So you have to look around the people you're hanging out with, look around your surroundings. And that's a real reflection of your worthiness or how much you feel, and being able to up level that. And so a big part of that mindset in that energy, and I feel like they're different, but they go together. It's like, we want to be aware of our vibration, how we show up, because that's going to also attract, and that's going to impact how we attract our business, how we make money, and how we keep it. I mean, just to go off, I just think there's a really important piece I want to share. Lottery winners. Statistics show when lottery winners win millions of dollars, within 5 years, majority of them have lost all their money. And they're left in a worse financial place than they were when they started. And the reason is because they haven't created the foundations, and their mindset wasn't there to be able to hold the money in a way that they could have when they received it. And so there's a huge piece there. And that also really gets in the way of our success, because that's our inner reflection. If your outer world is a reflection of your inner reality, then that is saying something to you, especially when you want to take it to that next level, especially when you want to hit the six-figure marks or the multiple sixes or the millions. It's about working on the mindset in addition to your strategy.
That's a really powerful example of the necessity to expand your mind, your energy, to be able to hold all of that abundance, and there's almost like is there a spiritual piece here, or?
Absolutely.
Okay. So can you speak into that?
Yes, I want to say more about that. I feel is really important because, so there is the mind, and I did kind of bring it together with the energetic aroma, which is the energetic piece. But there's also that spiritual component, which I feel like, as far as spirituality, when I coach my clients, it's from a real holistic perspective, because it's not just about achieving the goals or the vision or the desire that you want. It's also about being able to raise our vibration, and it's about who do you want to be when you arrive. So with my clients, it's like, so I'll help you get that relationship, or I'll help you build that business. I'll help you be able to scale and do all those things. But who do you want to be? And that brings in the whole spiritual aspect of being able to really look at connecting to ourselves, connecting to our beingness, really reflecting on how we're showing up. And the spiritual piece is a lot of connecting to our source within us. One of the biggest things I've heard from really successful people is that indecisiveness is a huge killer of businesses. You are leaving money on the table with your indecisiveness. And a lot of our indecisiveness is connected to not being connected to our source, to that wisdom within us. And so I really work with my clients on creating a spiritual practice, connecting to their source, whatever that is, so that they're able to really use that for guidance when they're taking those action steps towards business. As entrepreneurs, there's a million things we're doing simultaneously. There's so many hats we're wearing. And so sometimes we need to pause and say, okay, what am I being guided to? What is my next action step? Because sometimes there's 5 things that we can do and we can't do it all, right? It's like physically, we're just incapable, or we're overwhelmed. And so that spiritual component, I think, is super important to be able to support people with connecting to that source so that they can be guided into the action steps in addition to taking them, and raising their vibration and aligning their consciousness with that, the steps that they're taking. So it's not just a doing thing, it's a being thing, and then creating those spiritual practices to connect and create a solid link to that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. That's exciting too, because I feel like that is the missing piece for a lot of people, because there are many people out there who've left their corporate jobs and they've tried the entrepreneurial path and they're struggling and they're not sure what to do next. And they're thinking, hey, I've followed all of these steps, but what is missing? So I feel like you've touched on what that missing piece often is, and how to start to use that. Use your intuition, your energy to really craft and design the result and the future that they want, based on that deeper sense of value and worthiness. And that's an important piece that you touched on as well.
And Karen, it's like, furthermore, so, I've been coaching for 20 plus years. I was in this industry before it became like a thing. There was only 10 coaching schools out there training people. It was less than 10. I think there was 6. And it's like, now there's like 10,000, right? in all of my experience of following coaches, and I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars literally working with different types of coaches. I've worked with business coaches that are focusing on, internet marketing. I've worked with people that are business strategy. I've worked with coaches that were spiritual bound. I've worked with so many different strategies. And I found that the blending of the two, of the being and the doing, has been the most effective as far as success, because it's sustainable, because it's not just about doing all these things, like I'm saying, it's also about being and not just faking it till you make it. It's about up-leveling our energetic vibrations so that we can attract at that level, so that we can, because it's like people don't realize that who they're being and how they're showing up can be attracting or repelling. And so being able to be aligned with that, being conscious, because we're creating stuff in our lives all the time. We are creating, but a lot of it's unconscious. And so it's about bringing consciousness to those steps, to be aware, so that you can start building that integrity, building in that trust within yourself and others, so that you can show up and that you can deliver on what you say you can. So there's so many pieces here.
Yes. And
so, yeah.
I think, as women of color, I mean, myself included, there are aspects of our experience that only we have experienced as people of color,
Yeah.
And I think there is a distinction between where we're held back versus where we can actually move forward. Can you speak into that? Because I know there are some people in both camps, and some people who know they're kind of in that negative camp, but they want to get over to that positive, empowered place. So I would love to say stuff about that, because this to me is such a rich place, a rich topic, because I feel like there are real external examples that I'm sure all of us as women of color have had where we were discriminated against. There's institutionalized racism. There's actual things that are happening out there when you look at the news and the political climate of the country, where people are being discriminated because of the color of their skin, because of their gender, because of their sexual preferences. And I could go on all the isms. And so even though that is physically happening in the world, there's also something that's happening internally. And so there is also a part of us that I feel that we are hitting another glass ceiling, which is our mindset, where we're anticipating discrimination or thinking something's happening when it might not be, and where we're holding ourselves back from moving forward in a certain way because of the fear of something happening. And so I feel like we're at a really special point in history, like in 2019, just where we are in the world today, where we now have the ability to control our narrative that most people don't even realize or haven't taken advantage of. And so this is where I bring in the whole mindset piece. It's like, I work with a lot of clients where they can really, so let's look, even though this may be happening out there, there's with the law of attraction, with The Secret and all of these different things out there to really help us really focus our intention, put our attention, and create things to appear in our reality just because of our inner reality, right? But there's a piece here that a lot of people haven't taken advantage of, and it's really that they're living in the old paradigm of where they think they're being stopped, and really sometimes it's our consciousness, and so we're not moving forward. And what I found, when you really are consciously taking advantage of being a conscious creator and of your world, of what you want to manifest out there in business and money and attracting clients, there's an opportunity to be able to focus on that and really break through so that your outer reality reflects that. It's so, for example, I had a great example with a friend of mine who was walking on campus, at a university campus, and he's an African-American male. And a white kid, he said, bumped into him, but kept walking, didn't say anything. And he was like, oh my God, it was so racist, this kid. And it was, he immediately went there, was really angered by it. It was like, and I'm not going to do this, and I'm not going to do that because of this. And so I remember asking him, well, how do we know that the kid was racist? Was he on drugs? Was he nervous? What was really happening there? And it was a huge breakthrough. It's like being able for him to look at, well, could it have been something else? But yet you chose that narrative.
And it was, for him, it was a huge breakthrough to be like, you know what, I honestly don't know what was going on, but that's where I went and it stopped me. He left and there was opportunities that he missed out because he was so angered by the situation. And so I'm sharing this piece because I feel like there's a real important time now where we can actually shift the narrative. We can actually not hold to the story of that this is happening because, or I'm not making a certain money because of the way I look, and to be able to push through that internal mindset, that glass ceiling, and put ourselves out there in a way where we are showing up. Because there are a lot of people out there that aren't making decisions based on a race, that aren't making decisions based on what they perceive is happening. And so this is an opportunity that we can really take advantage of controlling the narrative by how we show up and our internal mindset, you know, to be able
Yes.
to opportunities. Does that make sense?
Oh, definitely. Yes. I'm like clapping and cheering inside. Because it is that narrative which is so powerful, and that which we declare is truly our experience. And I think some people, you know, they get caught up in those old tracks, those old narratives. And so it sounds like what you help people do is to begin to create new narratives and expand the possibilities. When we're looking at entrepreneurship, what are some of the areas where you help people to create new narratives in their business?
Well, a huge part is pricing, like know your worth. And so, like I said, with a lot of women of color, when I speak with them, it's like they're pricing so low. And when I ask them, you know, just speaking about what they do, what do you do? I found that a lot of women that I've spoken with will completely share their credentials, their expertise, and all the different things that they have done to show that they are worthy, that they are able to provide the business and do a good job, when really they should be speaking about what's possible for me. Why should I invest in their services? I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with women of color about their business, not knowing 5 minutes into the conversation, well, but what do you do? Like, I want to understand how this could be of service to me. And so really being able to shift that narrative, if we're not coming from the perspective of that I'm worthy, choose me, I can prove that I can do the job, really showing up that, okay, I know I can do the job, and what is it that you need, and being able to speak to the listening of the potential client, being able to share what's possible, being able to presence them to the dream of what it is your services will provide them. Like, that's a narrative I've noticed that we're doing and we don't totally realize it. And so it's being able to look at those kind of blind spots and how we're speaking about business, how we're selling business, you know, how, and a lot of us are selling services, even if it's a service or a product, being able to come from the perspective of what's possible, and just being able to really support one another, and to being able to believing that people will pay for your services, you know, being able to know that and being able to come from that perspective. There's a lot of shifts there. It's a strategy there, but it's also the internal aspect of being able to, that you're worthy, what you have brings value, and being able to do those tweaks. It's just a 15-degree shift, as I say to millions, being able to tweak people speaking, tweak how they're selling, tweak how they're positioning themselves in the market, doing a little bit of tweaking on their vision and their strategy so that they really can show up powerfully and be confident. It's really about confidence too, and knowing your worth, knowing that you can provide, and being able to create a product or a business that can provide that for others.
I love it. Yeah. So, I mean, you've given us some really great ways for people to realize that they have the potential to create exactly what it is that they want in their business. Some things to look at.
And there's actually a key piece I actually want to say.
Yes.
Leadership is huge. Leadership is kind of the underlying arch over everything I'm talking about. And it's about self-leadership too, like how we show up. And so I work with clients to really step it up in leadership so that they can be an influential leader, not only in their business, but in their communities, in their realm. Because this is about like going down to the basics of clearing clutter, clearing your closets, that you're getting rid of stuff that where you don't look like a leader, cleaning your car, like really showing up powerfully, like you've got it together. And so that you can show, because a lot of us, especially in small business owners, we are a product, we represent that. And so being able to start there, and that's in the mindset as well. But in all those different ways, financially, putting our financial house in order, I really work with them to start in those places there so that we can sell, that we can represent powerfully.
I love that. So it sounds like it's a full embodiment.
Yeah.
On all different levels where people, they're being that version of themselves, and they're actually reaping the benefits. And, it kind of goes back to what your dad said to you. It's kind of like a full circle where, yes, you need to work a little harder. Yes, you need to show up a certain way. And there's this other part of, as you embody your power as a woman of color and all that you've attained, then you're actually free of some of those, those narrow ways of, I guess, being perceived or allowing yourself to be perceived, and really rising above that. So
absolutely, because it takes more energy proving my worth to you, that I look at all this, I have this, so I can provide results. That takes more energy than really tuning in and connecting to you as my client and being able to show you what connect you to your dream, to show you what's possible based on what it is that you desire. It's so much more clean. It's so much more effortless. You can just feel the different energy when I'm trying to prove myself versus I'm trying to connect you to what you desire and being able to help you with the steps you need to take to be able to get there.
Yes. And there's that deeper connection piece as well, which can only happen when we're truly open and not in that defensive sort of energy of that past way of being. And so that mission of Unstoppable Sisters Rising is so powerful because, I think a lot of women, they are independent. They have done it on their own. And now it's time for them to be supported and have some guidance from someone who truly understands. And so that's really the power and the support that you're providing for people.
Yeah.
Do you have any final thoughts?
I do. There's one thing I really want to say. Part of what compelled me into creating this movement, the Unstoppable Sisters Rising movement, was I didn't see, like I said, I've spent literally hundreds of thousands of dollars on coaching and on training and to be able to grow a business. But I didn't see anybody that looked like me up there being represented. I was never trained by anybody who was a woman of color. Most of them were Caucasian males or females. Nothing's wrong with that. But I started to see but there are a lot of other women of color that have businesses that want to grow that don't have access. And so a big part of why I created this movement and positioned myself as one to be able to provide those services, because I've done 20 plus years of training, not only just on self-development, but on big business building, it's so important to feel like when I'm going to these seminars and I'm one of 5, Black women in a group, or I'm one of 10 people in a room of 300. It's really important that I found when I was meeting with other women of color, gosh, I want to see myself up there one day. And so this is why I've created this platform. It's with all these interviews I've been doing and all these connections I've been networking, there are so many amazing women of color out there that have amazing businesses, but they're invisible. They're the world's best kept secret. And so when I went out there and started scouring the internet, started going out there networking and meeting people, where are you? Let's come together and support one another to grow. Let's create leadership in this community, because there's many of us out there that are very successful, that have broken through the 6 figures and multiple 6 figures, and to be able to support other brothers and sisters out there that want to be able to rise, that want that support. And so creating this collective community, this is why I wanted to do this. And I've been wanting to do this, but I was told there's no money in it. People of color aren't going to pay, but that's not true, and that's what I found going into all of the different trainings that I have. There are people out there willing to pay, because we know, you and I especially know, that you have to put money into your business to be able to grow, to be able to break through those income brackets. And so that's the point of this, is creating this support to be able to have a hub where people can go to get the support to take their businesses, to take their personal growth and development to the next level.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. And I know that you have an opportunity for people to be able to connect with you a little bit deeper and experience some of what you have to offer. Can you?
Yes. So I have started a coaching series where I'm providing free live coaching and Q&A to support people. I'm doing it, a couple times a month to kind of create an open forum for people to come and ask questions and get support on what they need to do to go to that next step in their business. And so to really start opening that dialogue, really create that support and being able to coach people. And so I know there's a link, there's going to be a link there, and it's at phyllisfrancis.com /live coaching. When you go there, you'll be able to connect in to be able to show up and get the support that you need to be open to receive, be open to looking at what you can do to make those tweaks so that you can start making the money you desire.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. And, I know there's people who are ready for a change and are just really looking for someone to be able to help them to that change. And so this is a great opportunity, and we encourage you to take advantage of that. Click that link and experience Phyliss for yourself. She's amazing. I know her personally as well.
Thanks,
and yeah, absolutely. I mean, 100%. So this mission, Unstoppable Sisters Rising, enjoy the ride. And this is just the beginning.
Yes. Thank you, Karen. Thank you so much for taking the time out to be available to interview me.
Welcome. It was so much fun. All right. Thank you all for joining us, and enjoy the rest of the series, and we'll see you soon. Bye.